Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to once again look at the GE sales, and it's time to tackle a mammoth. The amount of GE vehicles that exist nowadays in the game is nuts. The vast majority in the game now are GE and not pack vehicles. The only pack vehicles you seem to have are the higher tier ones, and even then there's some GE vehicles. So I apologize for these videos being a bit long and also taking a bit longer, but I hope you understand why. We start off with the lower tier stuff. Obviously, Krasnolutski's isn't on discount yet because it was added recently, but Zhukovski's is, and Zhukovski's is a fun little biplane. It's very good in arcade battles, incredibly maneuverable, and has the 47.62mm Shikasses, and of course the rockets that you can bring along as well. It's one of the more powerful biplanes in the game, incredibly maneuverable, and generally just very fun to play. So if you want a little bit of low tier fun, it's not a bad pick. Then you got the Catalina. The Catalina is just a standard one, the 5A. Very similar to the ones that you get in the American tree, and there's not really much point in picking it up. You do get the mines, which is quite nice, and also the 1,000-pound bombs, and also 2 torpedoes, weirdly enough, but overall its flight characteristics are very poor. It rips incredibly easily, and also is really, really slow. So it's nice to have and nice to see, but its limited use is where it's going to fail you. Then you got the Hampton, kind of the same deal really. It's not really too useful. It is slightly different compared to the standard Hamptons that you see in the British tree. It does have a 12.7mm Berezin, which is quite nice, and also at the same time it has the standard bomb loads. The Hampton actually has pretty good bomb loads overall, which is quite nice. It means that you can kind of play and just kind of bomb bases and have a decent time. But also, when you have a look at the Soviet tech tree, they have a pretty healthy bomb line that you can kind of do that with all these guys, so there's not really much point at the end of the day. The P40E one is also good, another copy, the only difference being the bomb. It actually gets technically a better bomb than the American version, the 500 kilo. You can also get the 250 kilo and then the 200s, which is quite nice. Has, of course, the 650 cals and all of that good stuff. It's a decent plane. It's a good multi-role plane. It can work in pretty much every game mode. It's one which can also fit in a 2-7 lineup. They did recently change the Soviet 2-7 ground lineup though, which kind of sucks, so that isn't too fun, but at least it's available, and they're not a bad pickup at all. The Hurricane Mark IIB is okay, a little bit high BR'd in my opinion. It's basically high BR'd because of its weaponry. The two 12.7s and also the 220mm Shabaks. I would say its flight performance is more of a 2.7/2.3, so if you do pick something like this up, you really have to work hard to get it working, so that kind of sucks in a way. Then you've got the Chaika. The Chaika is once again just a really fun little biplane that exists for the Soviets. It's just one which you can kind of wander around the place in with 220mm Shabaks. Another thing that's very good in arcade and in realistic, can be at least funny to play. But a lot of people at 2.7 will just tear this thing apart. Like, this vehicle is the same BR as some Corsairs, just to give you a general idea of the vehicle. The I-16 Type 28, I don't really like. The issue with the I-16 Type 28 is the fact that they upgraded the guns, so it does have 220mm Shabaks, which is quite nice, but they didn't really upgrade the engine, so it's pretty heavy for what it is. And one of the big positives of the I-16 series is how much maneuverable it is, whereas the Type 28, it kind of trades a lot of that for the guns, and I don't think it works very well. I'd rather actually have the earlier I-16s than this one. Unless I'm in arcade, then maybe it's a little bit more useful. Then you've got the standard P39K1, another one which is pretty good for the BR that it's in. It has the 37, has the 12s, has the 7s, you know, has a lot of firepower, and also generally can do pretty well in most scenarios. Also gets a 250 kilo bomb, surprisingly enough, so you can bring it into ground and also air and do pretty well with it too. Kind of low BR as well at 2.7, surprisingly. They also added an A20 G30 for some reason. I feel like they just decided to add all the American vehicles to the Soviet tech tree. Of course, the Lend-Lease setup. The A20G30 has the 6 12-7s in the front, then also 2 sets of 12-7s on the back, a single at the bottom, and then a dual at the top. This vehicle will always do well. You know, it also can carry 2 1,000 kilo bombs for some reason, and also torpedoes, so it does make it a little bit different from the American one. So you can use this in naval and also in ground quite effectively. 1,000 kilo bombs are pretty good in general when it comes to ground. Then you also have the P63A5. This is once again very similar to the P39. A very good vehicle, good climb rate, and also pretty decent guns with the 37 and the 12-7s. There's nothing wrong with this vehicle at all. You know, it works very well and is pretty good. At rank 3 you do have some very nice planes for the Soviets though in the aviation part of the tech tree. The Ak-3s of course are very fun. Then P47, of course there's a P47 because every tree just has a P47 now. The difference between this one is the bombs that it can carry. So instead of the 1,000-pounders, it gets 500s, and instead of the 500, it gets a 250. So these are kilos instead of pounds. It's going to act very similarly, and as a bomb truck, going to work very well, and as other trucks, it's going to work very well as well. Being the bubble canopy P47, it has a lot of oomph behind it when it comes to its engine, and also, of course, it's 50 cals. So just like all the other P47s, very good and usually pretty under-tiered. B25J as well. In the Hizzy, this vehicle is okay. It's got a bit of an issue with it, where it's got the problem that we talk about quite a lot, where it is between kind of the heavy bomb load and also the general speed thing. So its speed is okay. Its defensive gunnery is pretty good, you know, with all the 50 cals everywhere and decent firing angles apart from underneath. It also has the good offensive, like, front guns, but its bomb load is only 3 500s, which is not very good. And by this point, when you're looking at, like, 4.3 vehicles, you either want ones which are fast and agile to be able to be used in ground and naval so they can watch out for your A fire, or you want them to carry big bomb loads and be able to go very high altitude. This B25J doesn't really do either of those, so it's kind of stuck in a weird place, so I'd say no to that. SU-6 they randomly added recently, no idea why, but it's got the SU, it's got the good old 23s, and it's also got the 7.62s. I don't really know what's going on with this one, why it exists, but it does get some crazy bomb loads, including some 25 kilo bombs, weirdly enough. It does have just some very odd armament, so it's definitely one to look out for. The BE-6 is too slow. It has some 23mm cannons, which is nice, and if people aren't as confident attacking something like this, they'll get shredded, especially from the back where it has the 2 sets of 23mm, but from the front it's only got 1, and from below there are many angles you can hit. It does have a pretty interesting bomb load because it can carry all the 500s or even torpedoes, but overall it's just too slow. You're going to trade 1 for 1 at best, and yeah, you'll make your SL back and all of that, but will it be a fun experience? Probably not. There's much better experiences out there where you won't just get canned. Then you have, of course, the VK-107. The Yak-3 VK-107 is a very good vehicle. The guns are good. You know, and also its flight performance is pretty nice because of the M107A. It has a lot of power behind this engine, and it means that you can get past a lot of the pretty dodgy rank 4s that exist for the Soviets. You know, the I-225, the I-185, not exactly great. Some of the strike aircraft are not great, apart from, like, these guys are very good. The Tu-2s can be quite nice, and then also the Ak-3 and the Ak-9. They have engine issues where they like to overheat. So the Ak-3 can get you past, like, a lot of the rank 4 and a lot of the issues there, and then get you into rank 5, where you get to play with the jets and have a bit of fun. You can even, you know, research a lot of rank 5 around there. Then you've also got the Su-11. The Su-11, of course, just gone up in BR, but it's still very much combat effective. It's still very powerful for what it is. Has the 37 and, of course, the 23s. One of the big additions as well is it has 2 250s on it, and these 250s you can drop independently. So that means two pretty good bomb drops at 7.3. It used to be really nice in the 7.0 lineup that you could bring, but obviously you can't do that anymore. But it's still a very good vehicle. And from top down, it can annihilate anything in the ground, and in aviation, it's still a very competent air superiority fighter, even at 7.3. So this vehicle is really nice. Works really well, probably one of the best G vehicles to pick up for ground to be able to grind through the tech tree. Then you've got the MiG-21S. So this one's a little bit odd. It obviously has good flight performance, you know, having the good old Tumansky. The 23mm are not the best guns around at the BR, so that kind of sucks. But the main issue with this thing, no countermeasures, and also at the same time, you only get R3Ss or R3Rs. And for me, that's very weak. A lot of vehicles around this BR have much better missiles. If you have a look at like the Harriers, for example, they have the SRAMs, they have the AIM-9Gs. You've also got R60s at 10.0, and even lower with stuff like the Yak-38M. You get like, you know, 4 R60s at like 9.7, I think it is. And the fact that this thing doesn't have any countermeasures either, so you got to rely on your speed. It's just not a good vehicle. You know, you compare it to stuff like the MiG-21 SPSK, and it's just a lot weaker. So for me, I understand that this one's high, it's a rank 6, you know, you've got very good rewards on it and everything like that, but it just has too many limitations. It's the missiles aren't good enough, and no countermeasures means that you're going to get caught out quite a lot, which isn't very fun. For ground, there is once again a bunch of G vehicles for the USSR as well, and since a lot have been removed or moved around, it's kind of hard to work out what's where. Obviously, you have a standard T-26 as the 1.0 reserve. Not worth your time. Just play the BT line. It's a lot better than the T-26s. The T-26s are not fantastic. You know, they're pretty slow. The gun's okay, but everything else is pretty weak. So you want to get through them as quick as possible and then move on. So there's no point in getting a premium one. The T-35, though, can be a little bit of fun. This thing has a mega crew of 10 people in it, and also has a Donkey 76 and 45 on the front, so you can have a little bit of fun. Then there's also another 45 on the back, plus a bunch of DT machine guns. So this vehicle is obviously a land ship. There's a lot kind of going on with it, so if you like this stuff or just want to kind of relax at the end of the day, or you know, you don't want to take stuff too seriously, it's well worth giving it a go because it's not too bad of a vehicle. Probably one of the best land ships that we have. The Su-57 I don't think is that good as a vehicle. Not a ton of survivability. The gun's fine, you know, it works well for 2-3, but since it's a rank 1, you know, it's basically got a rank 2 BR at rank 1. Never nice to have that setup, and overall it's just very limited. You know, it's incredibly light when it comes to its armor, and also at the same time the gun doesn't make up for it, and of course the limited traverse and all that, definitely not worth it. Then you got the T3. The T3 is just a Panzer III with a set of Soviet markings on it. I think the vehicle's fine, like it's completely okay. There's nothing to really write home about this one. The only issue with it is really the turret rotation speed, or the general targeting speed is super low on this machine. So yeah, that's that's definitely a problem with it. I would probably say it's not worth getting, just because you can get a very similar experience in the German tech tree, and you can get it at a pretty low BR as well, so it's quite easy to grind out. So yeah, I don't think I would pick this up personally. It's probably just worth just playing the German tree. Then you got the BM8, the meme machine with the rockets. Did get a big buff with the overpressure setup that they added, but still not very good. No survivability really, and also the good old gun depression, basically meaning that it's quite hard to actually get the rockets on target if a vehicle is close to you. I wouldn't bother with this one. They're also really expensive, the rocket ones, and that's a big issue with them in my opinion. I wish that they were the opposite way round. Then you got the T126. This recently went up in BR to 3.0, and because of that, it has lost quite a lot of its use. The issue around these BRs for the Soviets is there isn't any other 3.0s apart from there's this 12, and this means you have to like solo carry with the T126 and then run it with a bunch of 27s if you want, and the 27s on offer, like the T50 is good, but that's really about it. BTR 152 I suppose quite nice as well, but is this thing good enough at 3.0 to be able to carry some a match at 3.0? Not really. Usually you'd want more of a lineup around it, so for me that kind of sucks. It used to be very powerful at 2.7 with the T50, but then they changed it, so yeah, it's no longer that. It's still a good vehicle, it's just got a weird lineup around it. Then you got the Zut, one of the only AAG vehicles in the game. And there's a reason for that. It's not very good, and generally you want to put AAs in the tech tree. One of the main issues with the Zut is it's a tank destroyer, not an AA. So the targeting speed is absolutely terrible on this gun, and so tracking targets is very hard to do, when it comes to aviation stuff. So that doesn't really work too well. And they set it up so it has this APT round which has 71mm of penetration. So it's definitely more of a TD than it is an AA. And there are just better TDs at 2.3, so it's just kind of there, just sitting and chilling. Like, there's this 30 and the SU-122 are at 2.3. Like, why would you not take either of these over the Zut? It's just in a very odd place. Then you got the SMK, or the SMK. This is another land ship, which is really fun. Has the good old KV turret with the L11 gun, and also the 45mm 20-K, which is right here. And then also you have the good old machine gun on the front and back. So overall, not too bad, and wandering around the place. So that's quite nice to see. Overall, this is pretty cool. I would say that this vehicle works very well. I've seen people carry games very hard in it and generally do very good with it. It also has a really nice lineup around it as well, with the T-34s and of course the KV-1L11 on top of that, plus pretty decent AAs. And also the good old ZSU-37 at rank 3, so you can technically do dailies with this lineup. You also have the Mark 9 Valentine, not sure if that's available right now. Usually it comes around on Valentine's Day, and this one is a bundle or a gift vehicle too. So you've got next the T-3457, so this vehicle is pretty decent, you know, it's quite a nice vehicle, being at rank 3, BASA rating 4.7. It does have a good lineup around it, because you have the other T-3457, which technically is worse than it, because this one, in my opinion, has a better armored turret, but you know, it's here nor there. At the end of the day, you can also run the PT, oh no, sorry, not that one. You can also run stuff like the ISU-152 or the ASU-57 for a bit of fun, and of course the KV-85, which they put down in BR, which now, even though it has that frontal weak spot, you know, works pretty well. The T-3457 has a really good gun on it, and also good mobility, and of course the trolley armor, which a lot of T-34s have. So if you're looking for kind of a mid-tier premium to do dailies and also to do specials in, I would definitely say this one's worth having a look at, and has a good lineup around it too. The SU-100Y is also here. So this one is just a big mamba jumba. It's a meme machine, and generally meme machines aren't very useful in War Thunder, but they can be quite fun. So this is one of those which is quite good, and by quite good, I mean it has like a good gun on it, but like nothing else. So for meme potential, it's very high meme potential, but for actual use in the game, it's incredibly low, because long reload, no gun depression, no turret, or you know, no 360 movement on the gun, very limited traverse. The armor itself is actually not even that good at 4.7. Like, it's only 60mm, so it's very easy to pen this thing through a lot of the areas. So like, it's just no good. Like, the gun is fun and you can get some donkey kills, but you know, there's much better vehicles that are going to be more useful. Stuff like the M4A2 is a lot more useful than this thing. You know, it has access, obviously, to the 76mm gun, which is nice. Stabilized as well from the vertical. It's just a copy of the standard 76 M4A2 that you see in the American tree has the M62 shell, which is really nice for the 76, and also you can combo it with the T-34 85 D5T, and of course the IS-1, which is just a really nice lineup to run everything with. One of the things I will note, though, is you run into a lot of German at this BR, and against Tigers, you can deal with them pretty well. Panthers can be a little bit dodgy when it comes to their armor. Then you got the Su-122P. I'm incredibly surprised this thing has never actually been removed from the game. I never see these on the battlefield, and there's a reason for it. They have a pretty decent gun, but they have absolutely nothing else going for them. So it's just one of those machines where you have, you know, rank 4, battle rating 5.7. 5.7 already has some pretty meaty vehicles. They obviously recently moved up the IS-2, which kind of sucks, but you got the T-34-85, which is the king of that lineup. Do you need a vehicle which has limited traverse on the gun, pretty much no gun depression, and also a really bad reload? And, you know, do you need to use something like this to be able to get, you know, firepower off with the good old BR-471D shell? You will annihilate anything you shoot with this gun. It's just everything else is a negative factor in your favor. Your armor is poor, you know, your reload is long, and also you have limited traverse on the gun. So you're also labeled a TD, so you don't even get artillery for some reason. So yeah, I don't know why anybody would ever buy this thing, no matter how low in BR it goes. The T-44-122 is a little bit more understandable, has better gun depression, you know, better traverse, and also a turret. It has, of course, the 122mm as well, which only has the BR-471B round, so slightly worse, but still fine at 6.3 to be able to pretty much kill everything. The only thing you're going to struggle against is high-tier American heavies if you run into them, or Soviet heavies, but you're in the Soviet tech tree, so generally that's fine. The major thing that hurts this vehicle is the reload. The reload's just nuts, and also at the same time, the armor is not exactly great, but it's good enough. I would say the main thing is the reload on the gun. Like, it's crippling for a vehicle. The T-34-100 is an interesting one. It's kind of interesting to see this vehicle, because I personally, when I look at its stats, like, you know, decently long reload, pretty bad gun depression, armor's not very good for 6.3, all of that stuff, I look at it and I think, okay, this shouldn't be too great. But when I played it at 6.3, like when I was playing it alongside, I think it was like the IS-2s, when I was spading them out, it actually did me pretty well as like a second or third spawn. It was decently mobile, the gun worked very well, so it has that 412D round, which can penetrate pretty much anything that it faces. The 100mm is actually really nice for the Soviets around this BR. So yeah, maybe I just misjudged it. Maybe it is actually a lot of fun, and definitely worth giving a go at. At 6.3 nowadays, you have, of course, the two IS-2s, the Su-100P, the 2S3M, and also the M53-59. So you have all of these vehicles that are sat around the place. Maybe it's worth giving them a go, you know? Adding this to the lineup too. And I've just realized I'm missing something. Oh, they added smoke grenades. That's pretty cool. So, you have a bunch of pack vehicles, which are all pretty decent, and we'll get into them when the pack sale starts. And, of course, the 2S38. The 2S38 turns up. This is the first time it's been discounted when it comes to the sales. And, I mean, do I need to say anything about this machine? Obviously, it's a very powerful machine, has a lot going for it. If an enemy screws up once, this thing can capitalize and just go crazy. It has the tracker when it comes to aircraft. It has access to HEVT, so it can deal with aircraft. It has an LWSLR, it has scouting, it has thermals, which are very powerful, and also can go hull down and be very survivable. So overall, it's just a really, really good vehicle. The survivability of it is not fantastic if you know where to shoot it from the side or from the front, but at the same time, this fuel tank has a tendency to eat rounds, increasing the survivability, and you can go hull down, so it's very hard to kill it. So this thing at 10.0 is very powerful, just like a lot of other light tanks are around the BR, so it's definitely worth a consideration when looking at what is on offer. In Naval, there's actually quite a lot of pretty cool USSR vehicles that are on offer. You obviously have the Kirch, which can start you out in the Soviet tech tree. I don't really think you need this one though, if I'm honest with you. Like it's very similar to obviously the Frunz. And also at the same time, once you get into the Bespechadny and also start playing the Ognavoy, you'll be completely fine. Like the Bespechadny is a 4-3 vehicle at 3.7. I don't even know why it's here, but it's really good at 3.7, and then also the Ognavoy is pretty decent as well with its dual 130mm. So even though the Frunz is bad, the Ognavoy and the Bespechadny is good, the Moskva is good as well, and the Latucci is okay. I mean, it's not very good, but like you get the idea. Like, so you don't need like early premiums in this tech tree. You just need to get past the Frunz, and then everything's fine. The Smelyi is another one which is about. This one obviously has the 2 sets of dual 130s, so I would like a little bit more firepower from the standard armament of a vehicle like this. Also a dual 85mm as well, which is in the back randomly, and then 4 dual 37s and 3 dual 25s. So this might be worth as a second spawn vehicle, because you have other vehicles which have a little bit more of a firepower, such as the Subrot and also the Moskva. I know it's only 4 130s on the Subrot, but the main thing is if one of these turrets gets taken out in the Project 30 Bis, very similar to the Bezuprechny that you have here, that basically means that, you know, you're down half your firepower. In the Subrot, it's much easier to kind of keep going. It also has a very good fire director on this, which can work for the 130s and 85s, so overall not too bad. I think this is a pretty decent pickup, but once again, 4.3 is pretty stacked already, so might be hard to fit it in the lineup. Then you got the Blagorodny, so this is the PR56. This is the one with those kind of post-World War II 130mm turrets, which are very powerful. They have a really good fire rate on them. You can see 15 rounds per minute, which is really nice, and also a really fast fire director. So basically you can bang, 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 and then just keep moving across, and then just, you know, annihilate destroyers as you go. Stuff like this in the tech tree, like the Spokojny and also the Trashimi with these types of guns and fire director are very powerful. So this will be pretty much the same. It also has 4 quad 45mm on it, because why not? Which means that pretty much nothing will ever get close to you in terms of air attack, and any like smaller machines which get close to you are just going to get massacred as well. I generally don't think they're very good though, because at least for me they don't open up quickly enough. I wish they opened up at a further range, but c'est la vie. There's also 2 dual 25mm and of course 5 533mm torpedoes, which exist in the center. They're not the best torpedoes, but they're good enough. The main thing is the fire director and the 130mm on these. It basically means that you can always guarantee getting shots first and then kind of going from there. You also have the Kerch. So the Kerch is just a light cruiser. This one is a bit higgledy-piggledy. It's very Italian in design, and has of course the 4 dual 152s, and of course the 100mm duels in the center, like here in a weird setup, and then also has the 37mm all over it. So there's no reason for this machine, in my opinion. Like at 5.0, you already have the Cav Cats and the Spokojny, which are both pretty fun. The only thing is that this one's rank 4, I suppose, with pretty high rewards. But the Cav Cats, with its 180s, is super fun to play. And also, the Spokojny gives you something completely different, which is also very fun. So, for me, the Kerch is not great. Like, there's not really much point, and it has the Italian 152s with not great reload, and you'll face a lot of stuff at 5760 that'll just pick on you and just annihilate you, so it's not really much of a point. If you're going to do stuff like that, Zeleniakov is a much better idea with the Soviet 152s with the triple mounts. that you can see here, and also the 4 dual 100s and also 14 dual 37s on it. So this one has much more firepower than the other one, much better rate of fire with the amount of guns that you have, and obviously has access to everything that you would need. The only issue with this vehicle is when it faces battle cruisers / battleships, doing the amount of damage that you need to do to them. It's going to take a very long time to do in the Zeleniakov, and then also where the fire director is and also the bridge, it's pretty light on the old armor, so that'll get knocked out quite a lot, so you'll lose a lot of your maneuverability. But this one ain't too bad. Like, it's basically a copy of one that's in the tech tree, like a lot of these vehicles are. You know, you got the 68 bis here, you've also got the Chapayev, which is the direct copy, since they're both 68Ks, and yeah, this one will be the one if you want to pick up to kind of grind out all of the high tier stuff. But it's got the 152s, which are solid. It's just got an issue with facing battle cruisers and battleships. If it faces its BR, it's incredibly powerful. For the coastal fleet, you got a lot of Lotus stuff, which is pretty fun. Not this one though, really. This is just a G5 with a Shavak, so it's got a 20 on it instead of the standard one, which is a 12.7. They're both basically the same. Like, they're not gonna make too much of a difference. You know, this one also has the torpedoes that you can bring along, which can be a bit of fun, but I would say it's not really worth it at the end of the day. It's just it's much better just to kind of get past this rank as quick as possible, instead of getting stuck on it with the boats. Then you have the 123K. This one's actually super fun, and as you can see, this is one of the naval decorations you could get. But but the 123K, it has this dual 14.5mm on the back, which is super good at killing enemy machines, and also has the torpedoes that fire forward. And this thing is insanely quick, as you can see. It actually pops itself out of the water, kind of like a hydrofoil, and then you can go forward, get your torpedoes off at large ships, and then turn around and then batter people with this. I've had a great time in Soviet vehicles like this. I think they're really fun and incredibly enjoyable. Even though they've got low survivability, the speed definitely makes up for it. Then you got the 1204. Don't think this one's as good. Quite slow in the water, and has a 76mm on the front, which if it hits, yeah, it's going to do decent damage, but it's not going to murder anything. And then the 14.5s on the back is really nice, but you have other vehicles at this BR which have a better platform for the 14.5s. So for me, it's a no on this one. I don't think it's incredibly good. Then you've got the MBK 161 early. I actually think this is a pack vehicle, so this one probably isn't on offer. It's okay though, even if it is. And then you have the 186 MK85. So this one is another one of these big old armored kind of barges that the Soviets have. You can see it actually has armor in the center, so a lot of vehicles which only run HE can actually struggle with killing stuff like this. And also it has 285s, which is quite nice, and the 12.7s, which is good, and the 37, which is fast firing on it too. The main issue for a vehicle like this is aircraft and also getting to caps. You also have an issue of running into destroyers, which means you basically can't do anything and you're just going to get annihilated. So against PT boats and stuff like that, if you can angle properly and also get away from torpedoes, it can be super useful. But if you go into other scenarios where there's a lot of destroyers and things like that, you're going to have a bit of a rough time. Then you have the Rosamacha. So the Rosamacha with the 3-100s, the dual 37s and the 25s. This thing gets destroyer spawns, and it's just a very weak frigate which has no business fighting destroyers. This thing just gets annihilated, and just like all of its brothers, you know, you've got the German ones in the form of the Karl Marx, and then you have one in a tech tree somewhere, I think maybe for the USSR, the Yenets. Yeah, they just don't do well. They need a special, they need their own spawn to actually be useful, and right now they just don't have it. So yeah, this one is a dud, unfortunately. The one that isn't a dud though is this one, the MPK. So the MPK, I know it's a little bit rusty right now, but the MPK is one of my favorite vehicles, which I run with my kind of loadouts of, well, my loadout to be able to do events quickly, right? So I run the MPK, and then I run the SKR-7, which is right here, and then also I run like some kind of destroyer, usually a Bezpochadny or something like that. So if I need it, right? And I'm eventually going to run the SKR-1 with it. So this is a really good vehicle at the start of a battle to get an initial advantage for your team. You have a 76mm on the front, but you also have a 30mm, the AK-630 on the back, which can just shred any PT boats that exist. You also have some Iglas, but they don't actually work, they're just there for decoration. And overall, like, this 30mm is just really powerful. You can get torpedoes, but I find them mostly useless, so I just take them off. And you can also get the mortars on the front, but they're pretty useless as well. The main thing is you use this at the start of a game to annihilate stuff with the 76 and then with the 30, and then just get an initial advantage. I think the most I've ever killed with this thing at the start of a match is 11, and the only reason I stopped is because I ran out of ammo. Because the amount of ammo on this thing is not huge, but it's good enough. So this one is a really nice pickup when you run it alongside stuff like the SKR-1 or the SKR-7. That's all the Soviet stuff. There's a lot of it, just like all these other major nations. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.